of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The school board will convene to closed session tonight to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee of which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility under Wisconsin statutes 19.85 for N1 for NC, considering the choral music teacher, second grade teacher, and an assistant cross-country coaches, boys basketball, high school and middle school coaches. That's it. Does anyone wish to have any items removed from the consent agenda?
Not to remove an item, but there was a misspelling in the minutes. Ballot was spelled incorrectly.
We'll make sure Carl notes that and makes the change. And there were no donations, so then the consent agenda is approved by consent. We're going to move right away to the administrator's reports. So,
can we do the athletic one first, athletic director?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to move the can't find that.
New business E.
New business E. If no one objects, we're going to move new business E, the athletic director report, up to this point in the meeting. Mrs. Kay?
Here.
Okay, well, thank you for letting me speak a little bit here. Today, in your work packet, you have received some items from me. One, you received just kind of a report what I've been working on. So I won't go through that much with you. A couple of the main reasons why I'm here to speak today. First one is, in your packet, you were given some suggestions I've made for updates to the duties and responsibilities for our head varsity coaches. It was last updated in September of 2018. And one thing that has changed since then is that at our youth level, we have developed the Mighty Pioneers. And the Mighty Pioneers is a group of parent volunteers that leads and facilitates all of our youth sports. And one of the things that the Mighty Pioneers really believes in is that athletics is a program approach, and everything kind of comes from the varsity coaches on down, and their involvement in all of the programs is what kind of makes all of our programs go, and that we all click and we are on the same page. So some of the things that I have suggested in here pertain to some of those things. So like if we, on item B where it says administrative responsibilities, I've suggested something like work closely with the sports director of the Mighty Pioneers to set program directions for the present and the future, because I think our coaches need to just get involved at the varsity level, not asking for a ton of commitment, but something small like coaches meetings, kind of discuss their philosophies, finding ways to get our youth and middle school at our varsity games. So just expecting a little, just so they understand there's a little bit more commitment to all levels as they are the leader in their sport. Just some other things that I've suggested in there is keeping good maintenance of the items that we currently have. Our storage right now in all areas of the building in regards to sports are kind of all over the place, and we've lost count of our uniforms, and we have a surplus, and they haven't been gone through, and they haven't been maintained the greatest, nor our equipment. So just so they know that that's an expectation of them from year to year. So just some things that I feel are kind of minor in here, but yet important. So I put them in here really for you to just look through. You know, obviously not expecting approval today, but give some feedback on them. And maybe it's even something that I work on over the next couple months with the committee that's doing athletics with Keith and Dave as part of the part of the board. Does anybody have any questions about any of the things that I suggested in here?
Who do you deal with as a town board?
So on the town board, that'll be the next thing I talk about. Yeah, okay. So we're good with this? Okay, so the other reason that I'm here today is really to talk about our relationship with the town park and the facilities over there in regards to the baseball field and the softball field. I have been dealing with Mark Hain to move along the progress over here at the town park. For those of you that don't know, we often come to the spring and we don't know where we're going to be playing because more so our baseball field, it's typically underwater. It's not playable, it's not very fair because there's so many lips and bumps and divots, and it gets a lot of use. The Door County League uses it, the Pony League uses it, the high school team uses it, so it's getting a lot of use. But our concern is the maintenance of it, to make sure that our athletes have a safe and fair playing field, because it kind of puts our kids almost at a disadvantage when we're going out there with how bad some of the lips were in the playing conditions, and they don't have necessarily a home field, because a lot of times in the last couple of years we've been deciding should we go play we've gone to Bailey's Harbor, played at Bailey's Harbor, we contemplated playing at Jackson Park. So it's very uncertain what's going to happen with our field, and our athletes, deserve to know where they're playing and have a decent field that they can count on. So obviously we didn't have the season this year, and typically what the school gives, the town considers it a donation of $3,500, and this goodwill donation, and you can see on the top of the sheet that I gave you today, this donation is basically to help them. If you look on the top of your sheet, they budget for $3,000 a year just for materials for the fields. And then during our spring sports season, when their maintenance crew is doing the fields for us and kind of some of that spring prep work, it can be anywhere between $2,500 to $3,000 depending on what we have for a season. And so I have been working with Mark to make sure that they're using this time right now to get the fields ready, because this is our opportunity to do so. And so they have done some work already, and they have addressed the lips. You can see that's the third item on there. That costs $1,500. They have rolled the field, which is $1,000. They have power raked it, and then closer to the bottom there, they have done all the sod cutting and cleaned up all the lines. So they have done some work over there, but they are asking the school to pay our donation for the year because we did not pay it yet, because we did not have a spring season. So they are hoping that we can pay our $3,500 to keep this project rolling, because the work that they are hoping to do this summer, if you look on the bottom there, is $10,700, which does not include right now probably which will be the biggest expense and probably the most important one, which is the drainage system in left field, which will be, pricey.
That's not included in
It's not in Lily Bay. It's been hard to get Lily Bay to get over there and Ted Smith to do the field, to look at it and walk it, because the suggestion right now is to do what's called crowning the outfield. But the left field gets so wet, and that comes into the batter's boxes, and it's just soggy and it's a mess. So what I'm asking for you to think about is, what is the school willing to give? Are we willing to give? $3,500 is the most, is what we would give on a regular year. So.
We have a 3-year agreement with them going through the spring of '21, so we're in the second year, but we didn't play any games, so we haven't paid them for anything yet, right? But they have worked on it. Also, they brought in a diamond expert, Mitch Anderson, to work on the field, and he's made progress on it.
What is their budget?
So their budget, the best I've been able to get out of them, is what is on the top of that sheet. So 6,000 is about.
So even if we give them 3,500, that's still a shortfall to do all this stuff, not even clean the drainage system, so.
Lisa?
I don't intend to imply that once it's all fixed up, that they're not gonna make an effort to keep it in order, but there is gonna be some specialized maintenance required, so how do we have input into that going forward to make sure that that proper yearly pregame maintenance happens?
Yeah, and that's one thing that I've been talking about with Mark. That's one of the problems we run into in the spring is because they don't have the employees to be over there to make sure the fields are maintained properly. So a suggestion is see if our maintenance staff is available to use, but we're already spread thin. And then there's Mitch Anderson, who is doing all of the field prep work right now, and he does an outstanding job. The problem is he doesn't come back from Florida until April, May. So we need to know from the town if we give them this money that they have a plan in place. I feel we need that commitment back from the town.
I would agree.
And I don't think we've gotten that. You know, like I said, it's been hard for me to get information on the budget and, you know, like I said.
Yeah, the fact that we're never invoiced, it's kind of a, you know, a situation where you make a donation, without having, you know, idea of what you're actually donating for. Yeah, so I mean,
We're supposed to get all of our home softball and baseball games there, but we don't always get that, right?
Are you thinking like a memorandum of understanding?
well, that would be one first good step, so that they're committed to, instead of having a win situation. But, I had experience with the town board. They really need to, look at their labor situation. And they've been trying to do part-time labor where they need a full-time, town employee. So, the longer they put that off, the situation.
Well, and it's important for us to maintain a congenial relationship
Yeah.
with them, because having our kids play there would be far more favorable than having to bus to Bailey's Harbor and Jacksonport. But those are options if we can't come to an agreement.
And those are options, they're easier options for game days. It's more difficult if we said we're going to go up to a different location for practice every night. So if the field, the way it is now, is unsafe conditions, so then if you're saying it's not good enough for games, then we probably shouldn't be practicing on it either, so then we have a busing issue because it'll take a bus to haul the team because there's enough kids that it's too many for our vans. So that's a whole nother mess.
Is it not possible, is it not possible to negotiate? It's their field, they maintain the field, and they charge us so much a game, so much for whatever it is, as opposed to, I do find a little conflict here with the towns, which they should maintain, because that's their responsibility. And the bulk of the people in this building, parents and relatives that pay taxes to maintain that field. So it's kind of like double dipping.
Right.
But what I have heard as well is some of our students are not town of Sevastopol residents. I'm telling you what I've heard.
People who drive the town roads on all Sevastopol.
I'm not arguing with you, I'm just telling you what I've heard. Just reporting the
You
news.
don't want to
Yeah.
get into a, match with them.
And this has been a problem for over a decade.
That's what I think a memorandum of understanding would be beneficial, that everybody knows what everybody's responsible for and what they're.
Right. The major part is getting the field up to par now, and that's a big project. How much draining, getting the outfield to drain correctly, I don't know, because it goes from center field to left, and then it goes underneath the driveway here, our Pioneer Way Road. And so it's probably more than what the town can afford, and so they're probably looking for help from us, but we don't have an estimate from Lily Bay on what that is, so we don't know what exactly we're talking about yet.
And under, okay, so under this relation, this way we're going to get money. So if a player, a parent, a spectator, or anybody like that gets hurt on that premises, is there liability insurance in the cover for that? Because we don't have anything, no understanding of who is responsible for what.
A person would go after the town and the school district and the coach and anyone else you
Okay,
can
but I'm
name.
just saying, a
Right,
spectator
right.
falls off one of the, whatever. They're liable, it's their property. And, I mean, so, I think as a minimum, you need a letter of understanding stating that blah, 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 you know, almost a whereas, this is what you're gonna do,
Exactly.
And so that everybody goes in as, so I understand that in the past, we used to get money.
And it would be good to have it reviewed by legal counsel.
I agree.
Yeah, so they have a lot of work still left to do. You can see the $2,000 to $3,000 items are big, are important things also that have to get done. So the big ticket items are. And let's see, other than that.
Do we have to make that in the motion, or just, that's what we
No.
want?
It's not
This
an
is an
action
action
item.
item, if this is a report.
Oh.
We'll probably have that.
So it'll probably be in June then, and if it's gonna be a memorandum of understanding between the board and the town board, there should be a representative from each meeting to discuss it. Because this has been age-old problem, right?
Yeah,
No.
yeah, when we won state, when I was coaching, we played in Jacksonville.
Yeah, what year was that?
2003, 4? No, I graduated 2003, so I think it was like 2008.
Mhm. So 12 years ago.
Maybe the town would like to donate the ball.
Right?
Any other, are you done?
Yes, that's all.
Any other questions
that's
for
all I
Mrs.
have.
Kane? Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome aboard.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bear?
Thank you, Lisa. Just start by welcoming Jerry and take back to the floor. It's good to see you guys. We're glad to be here. I know we've missed being part of these meetings and having a regular opportunity to give updates on our efforts. I'd like to start just by saying that this has been a really challenging environment, and we've really learned a lot throughout this. Despite those challenges, we've really seen the community come together. We've seen how parents can play a significant role in our children's education, and I think we have new partnerships as a result of that. Of course, there are things we've learned that we can do better too. And this is unique because we built a virtual school in 24 hours, and then the rules changed, and then we built a virtual school in 24 hours, and kept going and going and going. I'm really impressed with the effort of everybody to get to this point, and I think my fellow administrators would say the same thing. It's been a lot of effort and time and energy. But I'm proud of how we came together and where we are at this point. It's taken a lot of flexibility and perseverance. So we're very lucky to have the staff that we have. By using this platform, I would like to thank any parents that are watching and just tell them we couldn't have done it without them. Thank our students for their continued effort. I know it's been a challenging environment. Some of them have wonderful supports and supervision and help with their homework at home, and some don't have those opportunities because parents are out working and doing other things. So we appreciate everything that's been done. Probably the most disappointing part for me, though, is not being able to recognize our kids in the most appropriate way. I've really been challenged and affected personally that I can't say goodbye to our seniors in the best way possible. And you are of course aware of the orders that came out on me. That's part of my report. But even that guidance has changed 3 times since May. So you can imagine what we're dealing with and trying to set an expectation, communicate with our families, bring our kids on board with a plan, and all of a sudden the rug is removed from us once again. So I am disappointed, but one thing I told my parents is I'm not going to cancel anything. Instead, I'm going to find alternatives. I'm going to do the best I possibly can in the parameters that are safe, because everybody's safety is, of course, a priority. So I haven't. You've seen National Honor Society, you've seen some of those events, but for our seniors, we did create a farewell video for all of our seniors, and it does have every single one of our staff members present on that video, and I think that hopefully is meaningful for them. We will have the drive-through diploma ceremony here at school on May 31st at 2 o'clock for our students, so we'll deliver the diplomas at that time. And then at 4 o'clock on that day, we'll release a virtual ceremony. We just put the film in can yesterday. We filmed our speeches, we filmed all of our students, and brought them in separately and took pictures of them moving their tassels so they can be part of that film. So that was rewarding. We are having a virtual senior night. We didn't cancel that. One of the things that we do is usually have a casino night. We couldn't do that this year, but instead we're delivering pizzas to all of our kids' houses, gift baskets to all of their houses, and we are going live with a trivia, and we have some people, some honorary people doing that are kind of fun. Hopefully the kids will enjoy it. I know it doesn't replace all those activities, and I apologize to our students, but hopefully they know that we're thinking about them and we're not going to cancel these events because they're important. The other thing that I wanted to recognize, which I'm really proud of, last night we had senior awards, and we still have a lot of scholarships coming in because a lot of our scholarship committees couldn't meet, so there's still things coming forward. But as of last night, we gave away $994,885 to our class of 48. It's pretty impressive. We will go over that $1 million mark by probably quite a bit this year. So I'm really proud of it because that is a step forward for our kids and it's community needs opportunities. And so we recognize that and we're really thankful that we can do that. I also just wanted to give a brief report on the class of 2021. That's this year's juniors. They did an outstanding job on the ACT test. You know that juniors across the state of Wisconsin all have to take that test. It's mandatory by the state. It's a college entrance test, and you know, different for everybody. But this was a unique class. 21% of these students required alternative assessment because of health, language, or learning needs, which is pretty high. Typically, we learn about 12 to 14% of our kids need those accommodations. So this class was 21%. But despite that, every one of those kids grew from our October pretest. Every one of those kids grew significantly. So this class tested as a whole way better than what we expected. And I can only see that from a data perspective at looking at year after year. And the growth that they made was outstanding. So it's kind of uniquely special. I want to just highlight the Victory Garden. Hopefully you read that article. But our elected teachers have been collaborating. It's been co-teaching some of those things, and we've been implementing some of the elective curriculum inside of the required curriculum only because we don't have access to some of our labs in the same way. We obviously don't have access to the foods lab or the wood shop or those types of things, so we try to collaborate. But in addition to that, they still are releasing lessons each week that families can engage in. But they're doing some creative things, and it's been difficult, but I know that they're trying their hardest to do that. Some other things that you might be aware of: we interviewed for the English position today. We have an open English position. We interviewed 4 candidates, and they went very well. We'll be making a recommendation to Mr. Whitfield here tonight, tomorrow. We'll talk about it. But we also created a transition video for our 5th graders. That's something we forget about, but we've got to be conscious of because we're usually in the building. We can walk them through a tour. We can show them how to open a locker. So yesterday I made a video that'll be going out to them probably tomorrow or early next week. Just welcoming them to the middle school and going through some of those important things. So we're doing everything we can. But I will say that we are not built to teach to video cameras or computers, movie kids. And so it's really affected all of us, and we're anxious to get back with our kids because that's our motivation, and that's what we sell. So thank you for all that you've done to support us and this effort, and we're still learning every day. We're talking about how we will change if the situation requires us to continue to do that. So, any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Hills?
Just a question. Oh, sure, this is all over. I think it's fresh in your mind. I think it'd be really valuable for you and the other staff to write down and log down your first impressions of what went well, what didn't go well.
Yeah.
And what you would do differently, check this out with Chris again.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it'd be extremely valuable, especially while it's fresh in your mind.
You read my agenda for my meetings that I have every single week because that's a standing item. What's going well, what we need to improve on. We've been documenting that.
Ours are always, are we winning or are we losing?
Yeah, yeah. But actually, we've had this conversation too. We've been talking, planning, and reporting at specifically with great detail to come back also and work on that.
The
I would
seniors
just
have-
really pleased to share that plan with you.
The seniors have graduation pictures and their individual pictures all, is that all been taken care of like for a yearbook or something like that?
No.
They don't do that?
They all have
All for
senior
that.
pictures, yes, but not in their gowns.
No, but individual.
Yes.
They do have that.
Yep, absolutely.
It would be nice, because if you go to downtown Sturgeon Bay, they have banners, an individual banner on every post.
And we put one in each one's yard.
We made
Oh,
one in
yeah.
each
I'm
one.
saying you can do a billboard graduating, and then they all.
This is very, helped me make a huge sign that was 16 feet by 4 feet, so congratulating them. But yeah, we made individual yard signs, and we had a parade of teachers that delivered those yard signs to their houses and honk their horns and celebrate.
Candy showed it to you on Facebook.
It was
Yeah,
really
that's
cool.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
Well, she can show it to you, it was fun.
We did consider the light pole signs, but we don't have light poles.
No.
Not enough. Not enough.
The next thing was a billboard.
Yeah, no, we're doing those ideas are great, we appreciate them because we look for every opportunity to try to recognize them. Because they've lost a lot, and, it's been difficult.
I'm sure you have chapter in school on how to, but what they do at
It's
a time
called
like this. right?
COVID-19, and how to respond to a pandemic.
That's right. That wasn't your junior year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening. I'd like to echo a number of the things that Mr. Bear had said and introduce myself to the board members here at Hillstead, elementary principal. This is finishing up the second year here. So I really enjoyed it. And probably the biggest thing, as it's been described, is trying to build a plane while it's in the air. That's what we did. And I've been very impressed with our staff for being able to do the things that they're doing. And maintaining that contact. I think that's probably the most impressive thing. A lot of schools have been able to make this work, but the thing that I don't hear other schools talking about or other families talking about their schools is the contact that the teachers are maintaining with their students. So kudos to our staff for taking that time to make sure that happens. Certainly disappointing that we can't have a traditional end of our school year. A number of things that we like to do. We like to have a field day that we started last year and they're able to do this year. And just some of the other activities that kind of wrap up the year for us. But more so than that is that there's kind of a loss that's going to be felt this year. It was so quick when everything happened. We didn't get a chance to mourn the loss of regular school, and we jumped right into the remote learning, and now remote learning is coming to a quick end. And so there's not a chance to really process that. I talked with Holly Retzloff, our guidance counselor for the elementary, and she's put together a packet that's going to be shared with families, just so that they have some things that they can try to fill that void with. A lot of times kids have a chance to look forward to things in the summer. A lot of those traditional things aren't happening. So another loss that's happening. And so hopefully the kids will be resilient. Kids always are, but just something that we need to be mindful of. I thank her for putting that stuff together. Something else unusual that we're going to do is we're going to give summer workbooks to all the kids. These workbooks are designed to go, for example, from 3rd grade to 4th grade. So it's really a summer workbook. It's designed to kind of bridge that gap. Usually it's designed to try and lessen the loss that happens over summer. But we thought it was really important this year because there are things that have been lost even this 4th quarter. So to try and minimize how much is being lost, we're going to make sure that those workbooks go home for every kid. We hope families choose to do that. I know that we're going to incorporate that into summer school, but again, hopefully families will choose to use that option so that that loss isn't expounded. I'd like to thank Mr. Skibba for bringing that to my attention so that he's used in the past and suggested that we take a look at it. So thank you for that. One of the things that we have started as a tradition is to start the year off with a video, and we have all the staff in it and saying hi and welcoming the kids, and then at the end of the year we do something to wrap things up. That's something that we're going to do for this year. So that's going to come out hopefully tomorrow, definitely by the early part of next week, so the kids will get a chance to see that, see all their teachers at least one more time before wrapping up the year. Any questions?
I was happy to see the section on the meeting. When I told one of my fellow NWPC board members that I was coming on this board, after they expressed what the nuts going on at the local school board, she and I engaged in being class 3 better than most of the board class. And if you can remove the lower, the disadvantage that it's to the same level at a 5th grade or a 6th grade, the results in the real world, in the marketplace, are equal. It's huge. They're no longer behind those who've had better opportunities. And I just, that a light went on, and I thought, wow. And she said, when you're on the board, you make sure you get volunteers to come to do this. I guess, even if I did that kind of for a few years, but I think that's really, now the light went on, and that's what you learn from this way, and that's super important.
It is. I mean, it's something that we even work as a staff is really recognizing the poverty that exists, and those are the families that struggle because those kids aren't being read to at home. Their vocabulary isn't as strong, and so as a staff, we've been aware of that, and we've been working more towards trying to find ways to increase those things.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. Ms. Markgraf?
It's really nice to see everybody. Happy to be here. I would like to echo really what Mr. Bear and Mr. Holtz had said about how much we admire our students for everything that they're doing during this really challenging time, and the parents for all the support that they've been giving their kids. This has been really challenging. I represent the People Services Department, so if you can imagine for students where learning is challenging already, in the brick and mortar setting, now we have them more do this self-directed learning at home with not the same structure, not the same support. So it really has been challenging for our students to where learning is kind of tricky to begin with. So I really admire and I'm so thankful for the staff that work here at Sevastopol to address all of the students' specific individual needs through this remote learning journey. They have worked tirelessly to continue to maintain that connection and to maintain that contact with the students and with their families. It really has been admirable. We're, I think, at our maybe 36th or 37th day of remote learning, and some of the data that I have are teachers are contacting over 85 times, just to maintain that contact and to help deliver any curriculum and learning that they can to these students. So it really has been tremendous. In addition to the special education staff, I really need to thank the general education teachers as well. How they have collaborated with the special ed staff has been outstanding during this period. So it really has demonstrated when there's more people working together collectively to address individual needs, greater things are happening for our kids. So I'm really, really so thankful for everybody's efforts. So I just wanted to start with that. I have been very, very busy the past couple of weeks figuring out and working and collaborating with people about summer programming. We were told probably a week and a half ago that we can do summer programming. However, it has to be in a remote learning environment that it is right now. So I'm happy to share with you some of the plans that we have so far. We are going to move forward with it. We have changed it this year. In the past, we have had enrichment and academic support. This year, we're only focusing on that academic support. We are identifying the students at Sevastopol who have the greatest academic needs, and we are going to ask them to participate in a 6-week program. That 6 weeks can be twice a day, 2 times a week for 6 weeks, because we understand we have to go ahead and ask our parents and families to be a part of this journey with us. Because our platform is the same, that these students are going to need that consistent support at home in order to get the most out of this. So we wanted to give the students somewhat of a break because they deserve it. They need to go outside and play, and they need to be outside during the summer and not in front of a computer screen. But we also wanted to have 6 weeks of contact with them so we can work with them on the skills that they need. In the elementary level, we are going to be using the Summer Bridge workbook that Mr. Hiltz had said. It's a great way for students to be able to gain the skills that they might not have necessarily gotten during the school closure, to reinforce those skills, also with building new skills so when they matriculate into the next school year that they have some pre-taught skills as well. For our middle school and our high school students, that's a little bit different. They're going to have an opportunity to complete work. If they did get an incomplete in some of the subject areas, they can complete that work because that learning was essential. The teachers gave it to them during the remote session, and we just want to give them that extra support to get that work done. In addition, the high school students historically have always had the opportunity to do credit recovery. So if it was a credit, a half a credit they did not earn, they're going to get the opportunity to be able to get the credit that they need towards graduation. I have, in regards to special education students, every one of our special education students will be invited to participate. That is our way, Sevastopol's way of saying, we still want time with you. We still can be effective. We still want your participation so we can make sure that we're continually working on IEP goals. Because that's what we need. Right? So I have 8 teachers that are on board and ready to go for that. And really excited to work with them and to kind of be figuring it out all together and how it's going to work. My plan is to meet with them weekly as well, virtually, to figure out what has been working within the summer programming, what needs to change, so we can then quickly adapt if things need to change in the next 6 weeks. So that is summer programming right now, and I wonder if anybody has any questions about that. Or I have a couple of other things I'd like to talk about.
How many special education students do we have?
We have 98 special education students, but we have 42 of those with speech and language. So overall.
Will the 8 teachers be sufficient?
We do. So that's a great question because we did talk about that. So historically in the past, we've had teachers nominate students to be a part of the summer program. Those, and historically there's been a lot of nominations because we want the best for our kids. I have asked our teachers to nominate the top 7. So the teacher ratio would be 15 students to 1 teacher. We needed to make it a manageable number, especially in a remote learning environment, especially when we're only going to contact them twice a week for a total of 6 hours a week. We wanted to make sure that the numbers were manageable for the teachers to make the biggest impact on students. So that's how we're going to do it this year. And I hope when this is all over that we will go back to what we normally done and open up the schools and student meetings to come. Right? This year we've had to put some numbers on it just so we can manage it in a virtual setting. I do think 8 is enough.
Okay,
You know,
thank
we
you.
have a manageable amount of students that are in there with specific goals and needs identified. Then the teachers can hold in on those.
Melissa, is the remedial therapies like OT, PT, and speech, is that being delivered remotely as well?
It is right now being delivered remotely.
How's that working out?
It's working out better than I thought it would, but nothing is going to replace the face-to-face. So our speech and language is every day, no reaching kids every day, and our OT and our PT is as well. So it is working. We will have data to see if more needs to be done when we resume normally, okay? And that we will only know once we are done with the remote learning environment now. We'll get that data back, we'll look at goals, we'll look at progress reports, we'll assess what needs to get done if more services need to be delivered. Yeah. But they are, and they're working hard. Yeah.
What's what percentage of your students don't have access to Wi-Fi? I can't get.
The 2 principals are better at answering that.
Yeah, I'd say from the elementary side, I just did a survey of my staff the other day. 20% have limited access. That would be through a cell phone, cell tower, that kind of thing. And I would say 10% have no internet capability.
I had 29 students in grades 7 through 12 that had no connection.
And Adam, tell me how many total students you have.
What's that?
Put it in perspective of how many students, what percentage that would be.
About 15%. And then I have another about 15% that have limited access. Even those students that could or would like to get access, we have some spots in our community that just don't allow for it. It's very difficult to get good connectivity. A lot of our students are functioning off phone plans though,
some of our cell phone providers have been very helpful to those families, and some have not. Not been cooperative, and it's cost families a great deal. Data packages with the type of work that we need to do are not lasting kids more than 3 or 4 days.
And the two principals will collaborate to find out how many households that is, because some of them are overlapping. And it's not always economics, it's sometimes locations.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
Geography.
Yeah, it's geography, it's location and funding.
It's about being rural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Madam Chairman said we're gonna talk about that in our, when we do our retreat.
But I do look forward to addressing that question. I do look forward to, finding the equity and the fairness in all of it for all of our students, especially those that are in people services.
I do think COVID has brought that issue really forward. That politicians and certain people think, well, if you have liberal, you gotta have supplementary, but I think now that they're realizing this is almost as important as having electricity,
A county board member told me this, that the county board is now they're not trying to attack this one town by town. The county board is going to write some grants to address it county-wide, and I think the Door County Economic Development is having that. That's not gonna help us next fall. That's gonna be a longer term, but it's good to looking at it countywide and not each little town trying to address it.
I said the same thing. They could do a few things, changing a few things in the current statutes, which would open it up much, the ability to open it up, but a lot of it has to do with county statutes. I'm not trying to be editorialized, but I told them at one time that their Wi-Fi statute, you would find in Cook County.
I have a question that maybe
It's okay.
it's rather benign, but if you have 15 and you have 25%, how are we providing educational services to these students? If we're providing education and teaching remotely and they don't have access to it.
So they're getting packets. If they don't have access to the internet, they're identified and packets are mailed out on a weekly basis. A lot of our students are taking pictures of their work and sending that back to the teachers. A lot of work that has been done over the phone. If they don't have the ability to Google Meet or get on the Zoom, it's teachers that are on the go and listen for help. It has been, and I'm saying this for it's been incredibly challenging,
And our special education students, which percentage would you say, Melissa, have, access?
I don't know the percentage, but I know that there's many, many students who do not they don't have the ability to see a teacher every day.
I had asked Kyle for some data on this very situation because I had an email from Senator Baldwin's office, and she has been involved in introducing the Emergency Educational Connections Act that's aimed at ensuring all K-12 students have adequate home internet connectivity and devices. And the Senate is also putting forth a bill on this. But the Senate bill increases the bill to $4 billion. And the $4 billion in federal support for elementary and secondary schools and libraries would provide Wi-Fi hotspots, modems, routers, internet-enabled devices, as well as internet service through such equipment to students, staff, and others. So I would like some specifics.
Yeah, we discussed it at Ad Team on Wednesday. That's where we're rolling on.
For our district, so that I can respond to Senator Baldwin's office. I did meet her on 2 occasions when I've been in Washington, and she's been very receptive. So I would like to take advantage of this email and get back to her in the next week or so.
Any other questions for Mrs. McGrath regarding people services? Internet we could talk about all night. But
I
that
have 2
further.
other things very quickly to say, some really good news too. I think it's important to share that when we do get back into the brick and mortar setting, our teachers are going through some of our kindergarten through 2nd grade teachers are going already in place for kids to work that way. And then, the final thing that I'd like to say is that on June 3rd and 5th, I am meeting some other Sevastopol employees with CISA 7 to talk about social emotional learning and how to implement that long term. But the first thing that we're going to talk about on the agenda is the COVID experience and what that's had on our students and our parents, and how to address our students when they come back into the building, and how to better support our parents through this process. So it's important to get social emotional learning going, but the need that we see right now is how are we supporting our students when they come back? How are we acknowledging what has happened and supporting them to be back in the building, and specifically their parents, guardians, and caregivers as well, because that is essential for all that they are doing to keep the kids going. So some good news to share, I'll be able to share in June too what we've learned.
I would think whether it's, needs to be another one, some type of, I don't know what to call it, but there's got to be emotional stress on the teachers too. And some type of program for the teachers to go through, a debriefing for the teachers coming back in the schools. Some may feel guilty they didn't get everything done that they wanted to do.
Or that they weren't as effective as they needed to be.
That's right, and I think it would be well worth time and effort to do at least a day or two, have some type of bringing all the staff back before school starts again, go so that we can within what their emotions can do.
And parents as well.
Yeah, that's another group out there too, yeah.
Well, we're having a virtual parent cafe on June 2nd that's going to start talking to parents, having them give a voice on what this experience has been like, and for them to be able to collaborate with one another, share what they've learned, you know, and we're hoping that there's a lot of participation for that on June 2nd. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
The other item we are going to move right up on our agenda is pick a date for the school board retreat while the administrators are here. We talked about June. We've got a couple of members who are working, so an evening would be best. We would start at 5 o'clock. And on my date. So what if I'll start giving some options here. I thought maybe a Wednesday night. I guess really this time we don't have anything going on at all in June either, but the 18th would be our regular school board meeting. So the 10th, the 17th, the 24th, or if you prefer another night, a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, a different Thursday.
Wednesday's fine for me.
The 10th is CISA board.
This is Dave Cack. Are you guys able to hear me?
I can hear
Yes.
The 17th is, if everyone's okay with that, I prefer that. 10th, I should be out of town for the 12th, but I understand everyone's schedule, so I'll just throw that in there.
Does anyone object to doing that having a meeting Wednesday night and then a regular meeting Thursday night?
So the question is, do you want the strategic plan before the board meeting or after?
Well, the retreat is really, it's really kind of topics that are separate from the meeting and just kind of general. And there might be things that come out of that we'll put on a July or August or September agenda.
Please see all my ideas for this.
Yes.
Okay, my ideas for the board retreat would be every year we have school perceptions do a staff survey, and those results came back this week. We have the strategic plan, which is the red folder you have in front of you. We also have Diane Baker Freeman presentation on board etiquette and do's and don'ts, and then setting board goals were the 4 things I had on my list. Yeah, that's plenty. Yeah. So I would recommend if we're going to have an evening, I'd like to start at like 5 if possible, so we're not all night, right? And I don't say we'll have a conflict on the 17th, admin.
I don't have a problem with during the day at NWPC board meeting, but that's something else.
okay having
I'll-
meetings back-to-back nights?
I don't know why I'm coming back.
Is everyone okay having back-to-back meetings?
The 17th works for you, Mr. Kakarinsky? Dave, are you there?
Yeah, yes, I'm sorry, I was kidding. The 5 o'clock is fine with me if you're talking 17th, that'd be great.
17th, okay with everyone? For administrators? Works for you? Okay.
It's on.
17th, 5 o'clock. We'll get an agenda together for that. If anyone else has topics that you think we must cover, let me know. I can't guarantee they'll make it. Maybe we'll have to have 2 retreats this year. But we'll work on that. Okay, we will move to the superintendent's report.
Sure, I just want to let you know that weekly through CISA 6, I have a meeting every Tuesday with superintendents from across the state. And then every Thursday, the Door County Emergency Services meets, and we are going to continue to meet throughout this. And then occasionally on Fridays, WASDA has meetings, including this Friday, talking about school opening up in the fall. You have in front of you your document that Diane Genquine prepared from all the strategic planning teams. There are different colored sections in there about the different plans. The inside cover sheet gives you a sheet for you to place questions you may have. So you might want to look this over ahead of time before the board retreat. And if we could have the action team leaders or the administrators who worked on those present those that night, that'd be helpful, but you might want to peruse it ahead of time. Also, we've been told that DPI and the Department of Health Services are going to work together to come up with guidelines for resuming school. CISA 7 gave us the guidelines from the state of Maryland, and Maryland has about 7 different models, and as this thing has been changing, ever changing, we've had to change on the fly. So I'd like to put together a committee. I'd like to call the committee, preparing for 2021. Other people are calling other things. I don't want to be alarming about it, but I'd like that. The admin team, of course, would be on it, and Stephen would represent technology. Casey would represent the kitchen. Rock and Dan would do busing, transportation, and custodial, cleaning the building, whatnot. And then I'd like to have a few teachers, maybe like one from each pod and one from special ed, a middle school and high school teacher. I don't want to get too big because then it gets unmanageable, but we've got to come up with multiple options of what's going to happen in August and September. And I know along the way there's going to be changes, and so we're going to have to be able to flip and flop. We've done some maneuvers already. Stephen's working on ordering enough Chromebooks so we can cover grades 6 through 12 for next year. We also found out that our first and second graders did not have Gmail accounts in the past because there was no need. Well, when we went remote, they needed accounts, so he's going to have those set up. So our steps are already taken. And some supplies we're going to have to start ordering now, and we may be on a back order if we start school in August. So it's a daunting task, but we're going to have to meet on a weekly basis until we get this some plans and models and options out there, because we don't always know what we're dealing with. And when I go from my meeting from Tuesday to Thursday to Friday, it changes all the time, the word you hear. I read 3 different reports from the CDC this week. After next week, when the kids return their materials and pick up their materials this next week, we're going to do a deep clean of the building and have it sit empty for 72 hours. Well, Rock got a notification from CDC today that says it probably doesn't live on surfaces for 72 hours, so closing it for 72 hours maybe is not necessary. We maybe still will do that just to be on the safe side, but every day the information changes, and so just what you heard from the other administrators, that's what we're doing. So I would like 1 or 2 board members to sit on that, not to just be up to speed on, not that I want you to make decisions what we're doing, but be along for it. So, yeah.
I did ask Cindy to sit on that committee. She doesn't have kids in school. She's not from the education community, so she can kind of listen to it from a different aspect and just see it through a different window than school people do.
Okay. And the only other thing I have to report is Sturgeon Bay had a training set up through the NSRO Association, National School Resource Officers. we were supposed to do our safety training for the school safety grant that we were awarded, and we were supposed to have the training done by July. They had it set up for June, and they got notification today that the training has been canceled. So I don't know what happens. They're gonna have to adjust too. I mean, that's just the way the world is, so it was just another shoe that dropped today, so. Yeah. No, that's enough, that's, yeah.
I don't have anything. The Pioneer Times, the school newspaper that usually comes as a newspaper, 8 pages, is going to be a 4-page insert inside the Peninsula Pulse this Friday. A couple reasons for that, but it's going to primarily focus on the end of the school year, seniors, etc. And then we'll kick off in the summer looking for probably, finance type things. Anything on the budget, Mr. McKee?
There's been questions on whether we are saving money or spending more during this time, and we don't have an exact answer for you at this point. We save money in areas such as no substitute teachers, but then we have the expense of increase in unemployment. You heard Mr. Hilt say we purchased workbooks for all the kids, elementary, for the summertime, which is not something we do. We're increasing the number of Chromebooks we're purchasing, so it's give and take on that. We've had, when it comes to unemployment, we've had some substitute teachers or regular staff members have applied for that, and so that's expensive. We don't know how much that expense is at this time or what it's going to be, but so it's still a work in progress on that end. So that is a big problem, because if people think that we're fine because we weren't inactive, well, that's not true. We have been working all along. In fact, some areas we've been working harder than normal. Also, the property taxes, the county voted to extend the due date for property taxes to October 1st. I talked to Jay Zahn this week, and we will still receive our payment in August, so we're okay in that area. And then next year's budget, we don't know what the legislature is going to do when they reevaluate the biennial budget, and we're okay when it comes to the amount of state aid we have, but it's if they start touching the categorical aid is where our dilemmas will be, and we don't know what the consequences of that, or their moves will be at this point.
I was on a conference call with the other business managers in the Northeast Wisconsin, and that was one of the topics we talked about as far as what's going to happen with the budget reform or budget repair, and what everybody is hearing, and nothing is going to happen until after the election. Nobody wants to touch it. And at that point, we've already set our revenue limits. So basically, the only thing that they can really take back from us is amount per pupil, and your, like Mr. Lukey said, your categorical, your special ed aid, where it may come down.
Transportation.
Right, but where it may come down and hit you hard is in the following year, is when they do the new biennial budget. After that is when those things where they try to make up, they kick things down the road and they try to make up, or it's in the budget, but they move your payments to the next fiscal year, so if they have a shortfall in their budget. So, again, nobody knows, but pretty much everybody was saying that they've heard that nothing is going to happen until after the election.
So along with trying to plan 7 different options for school in the fall, you can work on budgeting for 3 years, not knowing what to do.
That's okay, Carl and I'll figure it out.
Well,
That's what it is.
One thing that they did say, and it made a lot of sense, is the legislatures can't really make a plan on how to fix it when they don't know how much they have to fix. They don't know how much the shortfall is going to be. So until and it makes sense, until they know what the amount is, how can you really make a plan? You know, do they want to dip into the rainy day fund and the additional amount that they had from before? You know, until they know what the amounts are, they really don't know what they can or should do. So.
And I would think this would count as a rainy day. If this doesn't, I don't know what does, but I guess some politicians will look at it that way.
Did you have questions about any of that, Mr. Kakmarinsky?
No, I think he's right that things change every week. I saw that CDC report today, so I think the team planning and consistent planning throughout the summer is going to require nothing more than this.
Anything facilities-wise you'd like to talk about?
Yes, the equipment's been ordered for the music wing, the equipment to have all band and choir robes and uniforms and band instruments all stored. We'll end up with enough storage for all band instruments 5 through 12. Dan Petrina has the elementary gyms on schedule for that. They were supposed to change the propane tank out on Tuesday, but because of the rain, they couldn't bring the crane in, so that's been pushed back a week. And then they maybe could have floated away, yeah. And it put their work out here a little bit behind because they had to pump out all their ditches because it filled with 3 feet of water. But that's going all right. A couple things that worked in our advantage without having kids in the building is they were able to turn off the water for the 1965 part of the building so they could do some hooking up that they wouldn't have been able to do if kids were in session. They also turned off the power for a couple days for the 91 section, so that part could be, and those are items so they kind of did things in a different order because of that, so that's all right. What else about the building around here? The custodians started cleaning the 4th floor of the school, and they found some real treasures up there. They found...
It's an attic.
It's the attic up there.
I thought they found old superintendent.
No, they found Latin books. They found Latin books and theater books. We found Geraldine Peterson's picture when she won the state cherry pie baking contest from 1951. So we gave that to her because we figured it should go back to her. Yeah, so there's some neat finds up there. So the custodians are getting the building or whatever the best they can. They've also bagged up all the kids' material, so when the kids come up next week, they just get the bag and go. It's just it's a grab and go thing. So yeah.
Did you have anything that you need to report that wasn't in the written report, Sue, legislatively?
Yes, I do. The Fair Aid Coalition had a meeting this morning by a phone, and we have come up with a new plan. We have, as you know, been looking at the $1,000 minimum for those districts that receive no or little equalization aid. We have voted now to hire a consultant who is a school finance specialist at UW-Madison, and he will be developing a report that will analyze the various policy levers, as he calls them, regarding increased funding for districts like ours that do not receive equalization aid or receive very little aid. So a little different approach. I understand this individual is well respected in the school finance world, and we decided that we needed to try something different. When we had Representative Kitchens here a while back, he had said he felt that eventually there was going to be more support for districts like ours. Of course, the pandemic may have changed things dramatically, but we're trying some new things, and I think it's very exciting to see where that's going to go. Then the Joint Finance Committee has approved the DPI's plan for distributing the $175 million to public and private schools through the Federal CARES Act. And this will be distributed according to low-income students, Title I students. 90% of that funding will be based on that formula. And the DPI plans to use the remaining 10% to fund initiatives to train teachers on virtual education and to increase the number of courses that are offered virtually. And the funding will also be used to improve mental health services to students during the COVID-19 pandemic. There is also lots of discussion right now in Madison and other places about our fund balances. And there's interest, of course, in the fund balances as we look at challenging financial times. So just a heads up that legislators and others may show some definite interest in our fund balances.
On that note, Sue, in the discussions that we have with the business managers, one of the, I don't remember exactly what district she was from. She was talking to two of the legislators from her area, and they were talking about fund balance. And she said, do you understand that fund balance does not mean cash? And they're like, no.
Everybody thinks it's the same.
Everything thinks it's the same thing, which it is totally not.
That's right.
You know, what you have in cash and what in fund balance is not the same thing. So I hope they get educated and they do that when they're talking about that, though they probably won't. But when they start discussing that, you know, like for instance, for us, we have over 500,000 in our Fund 46 that we can't touch until, well, we can now in July, but it has to go for certain projects. You know, so that's 500,000, that's part of our fund balance. That is not,
You can't use it for
can't use for
salaries and
general
benefits.
fund, right?
Well, and even the fund balance, your fund balance is as of June 30th, but on June 30th, you can't go down to the bank and see that money because your taxes are coming in
Right.
later, and but they give you credit for it in the other year, so it doesn't, you never have what it says.
Right.
But
It's
it's
not-
not widely understood.
Right,
It
right.
never
That's-
has been, and
Nope.
probably never will be. So that's why I think we
Right.
need to be aware of this, that talk is out there right now.
Right. And then you gotta remember the low point is always in November, and, yeah, but they, yeah.
It's a very challenging topic.
We'll move on then to finish this board committee list. So the athletic committee will stay. It will be the athletic director, David Kaczmarynski, and Keith Volkman. You may decide, depending on what you all are talking about, that you need to pull in someone else, coaches or parent opinion, that'll be up to you. If you can just give us a report on what you're doing monthly, if you're doing anything, that would be great. Karen Brower is going to remain on the communications committee as a community member. I didn't ask you this, Jerry, but I wondered if you might like to join that committee. It meets about once a month, and a lot of the focus is the newsletter, and
What committee is this?
it's the communications committee.
When we had board orientation, Jerry showed interest in that committee.
It meets about once a month on a Monday afternoon, and especially with you as just a community member as far as the newspaper and what might be interesting. And communication, I mean, you came from a place where you communicated with a large organization, so you might have some help there too. The finance committee is the board of the whole. Do we have work for the lunch committee to do?
I signed up for that, and I think.
The lunch
Yeah.
Sure,
committee?
you get free lunches for it.
Well, and that's gonna be interesting right now because the CDC is more interested in packaged
That's what I
lunches
do.
this time.
Great, perfect.
You like me on the, KP committee, so.
Perfect. David Kaczmarynski and I will serve on negotiations. The board serves
Dick
personnel.
showed interest in that one too.
Pardon me?
Dick showed interest in that one as well.
What is the status of,
We don't negotiate. We get together with,
hasn't changed?
Not, since Act 10.
It's more of a sound.
it's more of a sounding board.
Yeah, but-
And actually, the better sounding board is probably the meet before, if we ever get back to that, where we have a couple of board representatives on a quarterly basis, meet with staff that wants to discuss any topic.
You saw the union recognized for this
Right, there's about 13 members.
war. Oh, really?
Mhm.
Is that just in the factory and
Teachers, yes.
Teachers staff?
Mhm.
What about sports staff?
They don't have a union.
You meet with sports staff,
At the meet and confers, we have,
First,
I can't remember, Keith, you and Jay were at the last one. What month was that?
early March?
How do we- Okay. My months are swimming together since since March 17th, yeah. I think it's
Before-
really,
Right before we shut down.
yeah,
Because I was
okay.
already back in Florida.
Well, we'll have to see if we can, how we can reestablish that meeting with her. Going down the road here. Personnel board as a whole, property, building, and security. Myself, Dick Heckman, today, position for Dick Weidman. That property, building, and security might also be known as the core team. For the
During construction, we call it core planning team.
Core planning.
And we will have to have a meeting here in the future. We have a new bid for the greenhouse, but we need to get a second bid. And there was also a recommendation of maybe selling bricks to the new addition where you'd have it engraved, and so I want the CPT to review that. But I gotta get the second bid back from United Greenhouse in order to have that meeting. So as soon as I get that from Bray and Myron, then I'll email you guys to set up a
They
meeting.
haven't changed the specs very much at all. When are you meeting with Myron and Ray soon, or you meet once a week, or
I have a owner's architect construction meeting every other Monday,
every other one?
except for,
That's not the core team, that's me.
that's Ned Rock, Dan, and I, and we're supposed to meet Monday, but it's Memorial Day, so we're meeting on Wednesday next week. Yeah, and then we go
One
back.
committee we didn't have on here was the policy committee.
Okay, I'll write that down for the end here. Booster Club is Dave Kakmarinsky and Keith Volkman. Is that still okay with you, Dave Kakmarinsky?
Yes, that's fine.
I don't know that we have a curriculum committee. I go to staff development, which is about once a month on Monday. But I've never been to a curriculum committee meeting. I've never been notified of one, so,
No, it's staff development and curriculum committee, right?
Yeah.
CBCC, yeah.
same thing. Karen Brower was the PTO representative. And again, we're not voting members, it's really just going to hear what they're doing. Does anyone have an interest in that?
I'll do it.
And that's usually on Mondays too, so
Pardon me?
it's usually Mondays.
Okay.
Technology committee, I don't know that it's been real active, it did a lot of work earlier on. Dave Kakmarinsky's on that. Jerry, do you have an interest in technology?
Yeah. Please. Please. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you having Dave still on it too, having two, or, okay.
Okay, town municipal liaisons. The purpose of the municipal liaison is to deliver good news to the town, not to negotiate with them on anything. You know, like the baseball fields or anything, that should all go through Mr. Lutke. We deliver good news, we listen to the meeting and bring anything back that we think the school district should be concerned with.
So they can't go with the communication go, hell no.
I think it's really important that we maintain, that we, let these guys do the negotiating, that we maintain that congenial relationship with the town board.
They're paid to negotiate.
I've been to Egg Harbor and Jacksonport, and they like hearing our news. Dave, you're listed in Jacksonport, but I don't think you can get there, so I'm just gonna take Jacksonport back because I continue to report to them. Is that okay with you?
That's wonderful, thank you.
And then, Dick wanted to be the liaison for Sevastopol. We have the plan for 2021, ad hoc committee, which is this Mr. Lutke talked about, the options for next year, and Cindy will serve as the board representative on that committee, just as an ear for us. And, Sue, do you wish to remain on the policy committee?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll leave this list to G and Mr. Lutke, and they'll fix it up for us. I'll make sure who's ever on committees that you get on the list of meeting notifications. Okay, we are going to review policy 7510, use of district facilities. Would you like to start by addressing that, Mr. Lutke?
Sure. The Eco Lab, which is off of Dunn Road, the property over there. Second grade team has been putting some work into it with restoring trails and getting it organized and whatnot. Now the trails are nice, and we're having some issues with people riding horses out there, and so they would like signage saying no horses out there, but I just want to review our policy first. We have policy about no animals in here. I just want to make sure everyone's on board with the proper use of that facility over there. The property was neglected for years until Mrs. Tank and Mrs. Broder showed some interest in it, and they made really some good improvements, and they're having some, what's the right word, boardwalks put in some of the wetter spots, and they want to protect what they have, and and more people now are starting to go out there and hike and stuff, and we don't want divots in there from the horses, and so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page on that.
And there's a sign about motorized vehicles too.
There is,
Yes, sir?
I don't know, is there?
I don't know, I'd have
Like
to
the
look.
ATVs and stuff, you mean.
That'll be necessary, yeah.
Okay.
I know we have a large horse community and there are looking for places to ride, and I did explore for additional trails we made, but, you can make more trails, but everybody's gonna get off those trails, they're gonna get on the other trails, and animals and motorized vehicles in there kind of defeat the purpose of the natural ecological progression that goes on through there. So, I guess we don't need any kind of
No, I saw
motion on
that.
this.
Does the sanitary district have a certain amount of jurisdiction on it?
They own,
Only 75.
and then they own a strip right through the middle. Yes, an access strip, I guess I would call it. And it's not, I've been out there and it's not marked where, it's really skinny of the property, so I don't know when you leave ours, go on theirs, and then come back to ours. I don't know where it is. I don't know if anyone does.
They own it or it's an easement?
I think they own it the way it's.
I think they turned it over, yeah, because
Mhm.
they have to perform certain tests and monitor and, yeah, so I'm pretty sure they have one.
Yeah, it's a narrow strip. Yes, I'm sure they own it because I've looked it up on the maps before. When we went through the process of having this all one property, I found out more about that spot too. That's actually, yeah, that's 2 properties over there too. This was 4, that's 2. Yeah.
So we don't have any immediate changes, but they'll post whatever signage
Okay.
we need out there. Next we have approval of the student handbooks, and we'll look for first, the motion to approve the 4K-5 2021 student handbook.
So moved.
Um, I didn't do this last meeting, and I was reminded that I should. When we make a motion, the person should make the motion so that Carl knows what they said, and it's the person's motion and not my words. So that's not directed at anyone, because I do it too, it's just a function that we parliamentary-wise are supposed to do.
I would move to approve the Sevastopol Elementary School handbook for 2020-2021.
Does anybody have questions or comments
This
on
is a
that?
information question, what's the philosophy, why does the handbooks come over to the board? You don't stop it in this stage.
Because you govern the district.
Right.
You set policies. So we make the recommendation, and then you say, yes, we agree with this, or no, we want this changed, because you're the governing body.
Okay, so the interpretation is we set all policies.
You set policies.
All
Yeah.
policies, it's all policies. And this is, I mean, I'm just not used to,
Yeah.
I'm not used to operating policies going all the way to the board of directors. Didn't you stop at the CEO?
Yeah, you're the Board of Education, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the board, yeah, we're.
You're not Board of Directors, you're Board of Education. You're elected
Okay,
officials.
Is it similar?
It's similar, but you're elected officials here.
Okay.
Right, but the Board of Directors isn't always elected, are they?
Depends.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are things that don't come to us, there are what they call administrative guidelines written out of those policies that don't come back to us.
Okay. I'm not-
Because we couldn't write them all down. It'd be nice if we could, but no. Yeah.
Any other questions on that handbook? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the middle school, high school handbook. For a motion to approve that one.
So, second.
2021.
Second.
Questions or discussion about that handbook? Okay, hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The 2021 CISA 7 contract. Is there a motion to approve that?
I would move to approve the 2020-2021 CISA 7 contract.
Second?
My question on this, as with any contract, do we always look at this and say, we use all those services?
Yes.
It's kind of a menu of,
Yeah, I meet with the admin team, we discuss what we're gonna purchase, and then I meet with the CISA people and we discuss it. And these are exactly the same as last year.
anybody have questions? Dave Kakrinsky, do you have questions regarding the CISA 7 contract? Is he still there?
No, I like the fact that Kyle's looking at him, I'm good with that.
Okay,
Well, the whole admin team looks at them, and it's a, yeah.
all right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we have the 2021 school psychologist contract with Southern Door to share a school psychologist. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the psychologist contract with Southern Door School District.
Is there a second?
Second.
Questions or discussion?
This is a great deal for us because we get it on an as-need basis, and it's better than trying to find our own because they're hard to find. Yeah.
About how many hours do we use family during the year?
I don't know exact.
It varies. Yeah, it really varies. I mean, I don't think, when there was one quarter where I don't think we used it at all.
Yeah, I'm asking for.
For the whole year, I could get you those figures.
Okay, yeah, I would be.
I bet it's less than 40 hours.
I would think, yeah, but I can get those figures.
Okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
You're correct, Ed.
Dave, any questions on the school psychologist
It's
contract?
fantastic.
Dave, any
No.
questions on the psychologist contract? No?
No comment.
Cindy?
Carl, can you answer this question for me? I just was curious what the portion of the federal funds are that we use for that particular contract. Because the way I read it, there's some reimbursements if they're able to retrieve a some certain
If they
amount.
are.
Do we know proportionately what we actually end up getting reimbursed or not?
I don't believe we get reimbursed for any of it.
I bet Southern Door knocks it off before they send us the bill.
We should
Because
get
it's a 60
something special ed services.
No, because it's a 6603, so she's a Southern Door employee, so they would get it, and they would knock it off our bill. We wouldn't get it, they would get it.
Okay, but how much would they knock off our bill?
I think they do it percentage-wise, but I'm not gonna ask, Patty Vickman.
I mean, I do know when I put in, because I have to do a quarterly report for our Medicare, and that is included in my report as far as what we pay for her, but I don't use any federal funds for that.
But you should be doing something for special education or through Southern Door.
Yeah, when they send us a bill, let's look at it and see
Yeah.
if they should get, I hope they line item a discount for the federal funds, but I'm thinking they'd probably give us a bottom line.
Because that's what I've seen.
So we'll have to ask their bookkeeper to break it out.
All in favor of the school psychologist contract with Southern Door, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Then we've got a proposal from the Clifton Larson Allen firm for 3 years of audits. $12,700, $800, $900 a year. Someone want a motion to approve that first?
Is that, how many bids do we actually?
This is the only bid we have, and it's the same company as we've had in the past, only name change.
Also Parsons has been out for quite a while.
The last 3 years, this company here used to be Shank.
Shane?
Yes, so we had Shank for the last 3 audits. Parsons Wilson's was before that,
Yeah.
but they didn't, the last time we went out to bid, they changed and had a better bid, and this was the only bid that we got, and I had a company send me a letter in December, and I went out to them and said, do you wanna put in a bid? And they didn't come back to me, so.
Most county, auditing county.
Nick, you might got all here in the same part and
I would move to approve the audit bid of, Clifton Larson Allen for,
second.
2021.
Not that it
Well,
matters.
3 years, the next 3 years.
3 years. Not that it matters, Carl, but above that total 3-year base bid, do we incur any of those other, have we incurred any of those other membership fees, et cetera?
Last 2 years, we've had a membership audit for the last 2 years. Normally, you're only supposed to have an audit, a membership audit once every 4 years. We had one last year, and we got picked again to have one this year, so.
Carl's lucky.
I was lucky, it's just added extra stuff that I have to give to them and everything like that. And what they're doing is they're looking for, making sure your open enrollment counts and all your student counts that you do the third Friday in September and the second January, second Friday in January, they mesh together. So, yes, we have used them, and they will be the ones going forward, they would be there.
Dave, did you have any questions on the audit bid?
No, thank you.
Okay.
Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We heard the athletic director's report. She included the head coach job description. Is that something you want to move ahead and approve? Do you want to review it, come back with questions?
I recommend it goes to the athletic committee so they can look at it a little tighter and walk through it with Brooke herself and
Okay, we'll take no action on that, and we'll refer it to the athletic committee. Yep, with David Brooke and set yourself up a meeting, great. The social studies textbook report. Do you have,
I don't know how much more than you have. They handed this in. The team worked on it, the social studies team worked on it all year long to come up with a proposal, and then they kind of ended up doing it remotely at the end. But this is the purchase. It's just your cycle for textbooks for social studies.
so we're not approving this, we're just looking at what they're purchasing?
No, we should approve the purchase.
It doesn't say action on it. Can we go
No,
ahead
it's
and do
not
that?
listed as an action item.
This is above and beyond their normal budgetary.
Oh yeah, this is something that needs board approval.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's your limit?
5,000.
Just a second.
And they probably
So
need
the-
this before next meeting,
Oh,
so they can get orders.
the sooner the better, probably, right? I think you can approve it.
I make a motion that we approve.
You're gonna have to do it.
Election, the social studies recommendations for textbook.
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Oh, I have a question. I may have missed it, but do you know, Kyle, was there a rubric to ensure equity for the various categories of individuals when they reviewed this?
Which individuals, the teachers, you mean?
Did they use an equity rubric?
Yeah, they use rubric when we do textbook adoption, they have a rubric they always use every year.
And they have one that deals specifically with equity?
I don't know what parts, I don't know what's in the rubric.
Okay, that would be a question I would have, because I think social studies is such an important area for equity, whether it's racial, gender, various categories of individuals. Are they represented in this textbook?
I didn't sit on the review, so I don't know the textbook they're reviewing, but I would trust my social studies department to make the correct choice.
Could we get an answer to that?
You wanna see the rubric? Sure, but I can, Dan Judas was the chair.
Okay.
I can have him send you the rubric.
Dave, did you have any questions about the textbook report information?
No, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Can we have a motion to approve Carrie Mulrain's resignation?
I move to approve Terry Mullen, high school English reading teacher's resignation.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Approve the middle school basketball coach resignation.
Make a motion to approve, Mrs. school basketball coach resignation.
Is there a second?
Second?
Questions or discussion? All in
I
favor?
have a question. Now, do we continue to do exit interviews even during this Christmas?
Yeah, because those have been done remotely anyways.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. We discussed the date for the board retreat, so we've got that. Then we have first readings of policies, so if you'll make the motion for the policy and include the words first reading, we'll begin with policy 0100.
I would move to approve the first reading of policy 0100 definitions.
Second?
Questions or discussion on that one? Dave? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0121.
Make a motion to approve first reading of policy 0121, authority. Second.
Any questions or discussion on the authority policy? Dave, are you hearing us? If you have questions,
Yes,
you'll
I'm
type.
sorry, no comments on most of the policies, that's all right.
Okay, well, if you do have a comment, pipe in, okay? Okay,
Yes,
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 0142.5.
Make a motion for the first reading of policy 0142-5, vacancy.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0143. 0143.
Authority of individual board members.
I make a motion to approve policy 0143, authority.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0144.3.
Move to approve first reading of policy 0144.3, conflict of interest.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0164.2.
Make a motion for the first reading of board policy 0164.2, special meeting.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0167.6.
I move to approve the first reading on policy 0167.6, email public records.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 0174.2.
Move to approve first reading policy 0174.2, school performance report.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 1130.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 1130, conflict of interest.
Second.
Questions or discussion?
We have two policies. Could we just approve one or?
They're probably for different I don't remember reading those, they're probably for different groups though.
different employee categories.
Different,
If it depends if you're support staff or certified staff.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Did we do that? Did I have a motion on second conflict of interest?
Yes, they just haven't, passed forward. Yeah, voted on it.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
I like running.
Doesn't take long to scratch my mind. 1213.
Move to approve policy 1213, student supervision and welfare, first reading.
Second. Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 1241.
Make a motion to approve first reading of policy 1241, reappointment of district administrator.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 1461.
Move to approve the first reading of policy 1461, unreplaced leaves of absence, fitness to leave.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 1619.02.
Make a motion for the first reading of policy 1619.02, privacy protection for fully insured group health plans.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. 1662.
Move to approve first reading policy 1662, employee anti-harassment.
Second.
Questions or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
I should add too that Bob Worley, who has been our Neola consultant, is retiring this summer, so we will have a new consultant with Neola starting this summer.
Yeah, Bob's been great.
Yes, we have. We will miss him.
So that will conclude our regular business for this evening.
If you want to go back to the, did you do the consent agenda on financial and?
We do the consent agenda just by consent. If nobody has anything to approve, it's approved by consent.
Do that, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Is there a motion to convene to executive session?
Make a motion to adjourn to executive session.
Second.
Roll call vote. Jerry?
Aye.
Cindy? Aye.
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 Dave?
Aye.
Okay, we are adjourned at 8:38 p.m.
Show that the assistant superintendent